What if I told you that the fear holding you back is actually the fuel that can drive you forward? That the anxiety that keeps you awake at night is the same energy that can unlock your highest potential? You've been taught to run from fear, but what if the secret to greatness is hidden inside it? Every successful person you admire, every great leader, every groundbreaking inventor, every fearless warrior felt fear. But they didn't let fear stop them. They learned how to turn fear into power. And if you stay with me, I'll show you how to rewire your fear, master your mind, and turn anxiety into unstoppable fuel. If you want to stop being a prisoner of your fear, if you want to stop watching life from the sidelines and start living fully, then don't look away, because this will change how you see fear forever. Most people spend their lives trying to run away from fear. We've been conditioned to believe that fear is bad, that it's a weakness, that it's something we must suppress or avoid at all costs. But that's the greatest misunderstanding of human potential. Fear is not the enemy. In fact, fear is one of the most powerful and accurate signals your body and mind can send you. Fear is trying to get your attention. It's a messenger, not a monster. It's not telling you to stop. It's telling you to wake up. You see, fear shows up in the presence of something meaningful. You don't get scared about things that don't matter to you. You don't panic over things that have no value. Fear arises when something important is on the line. Your dream, your purpose, your growth, your legacy. So when fear shows up, it's not always because you're in danger. Sometimes it's because you're on the edge of a breakthrough. It's your internal alarm saying, this moment matters. Think about that for a second. The fear you feel before starting a business, before stepping on a stage, before confronting someone you love, before changing your life, that fear isn't always about risk. It's about value. The bigger the value, the bigger the fear. And if you understand that, you can begin to shift your mindset. Instead of saying, I'm afraid, so I shouldn't move, you start saying, I'm afraid, so this must be something worth doing. Fear sharpens your senses. It heightens your awareness. It activates your brain. Your heart beats faster, your breathing gets deeper, your body prepares to act. All of that is energy. All of that is power. The only reason it overwhelms you is because you've never been taught how to use it. We've been told to be fearless, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be fear-wise, to know how to listen to fear without letting it control you. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff with a parachute. Your heart is racing, your hands are sweating, your legs feel weak, you're scared. But are you in danger? Not necessarily. That fear is simply telling you that this is serious, that your life matters, that your decision carries weight. That fear isn't saying, don't jump. It's saying, make sure you're ready. Be aware, be alert, be alive. And in that moment, you're more alive than ever. The same thing happens in life. When you feel fear before speaking your truth, before starting a new chapter, before walking away from something toxic, that fear is reminding you this moment counts. And if you step through it, if you move with it, you grow, you transform, because every time you listen to fear and let it paralyze you, you shrink your world. But every time you face it and lean into it, your world expands. The greatest performers, athletes, leaders, and warriors in the world don't live without fear. They've simply mastered the art of responding to it. They use fear as a signal. They don't let it tell them to stop. They let it remind them to focus, to prepare, to rise. When fear comes, they don't panic, they lean in. Because they know fear means something real is happening, something meaningful is at stake. And that's where growth lives, right at the edge of discomfort. So if you're feeling fear right now in your life, don't curse it. Don't hide from it. Listen to it. Let it teach you. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to reveal to me? What part of me is being stretched? What opportunity is on the other side of this emotion? Maybe your fear is showing up because you're about to do something you've never done before. That's not a problem. That's a sign of growth. Maybe your fear is telling you that it's time to level up, to stop playing small, to stop running from your calling. Maybe it's pointing you to your real potential. Fear becomes the enemy only when you don't understand it, when you try to bury it, deny it, or numb it. That's when it controls you. But when you pause and pay attention, when you sit with it and examine it, you'll discover something incredible. Fear is just a part of your power, trying to speak to you in a language you've never fully learned. And once you understand that language, once you decode the signal, you can move from panic to power. You can move from hesitation to action. You stop asking, how do I get rid of fear? And start asking, how can I grow through this? The truth is, the people who change the world aren't the ones who feel no fear. They're the ones who see fear, recognize the signal, and move anyway. They walk with fear, not away from it, because they've learned the secret. Fear doesn't block the path. Fear is the path. So the next time you feel afraid, remember this, that fear is a sign. You're exactly where you need to be. It means you're alive. It means something important is at stake. It means you're standing at the doorway to transformation, and the only thing between where you are and where you're meant to be is the decision to listen, to trust, and to move forward with fear as your guide, not your master. Most people treat fear like it's a wall, something that blocks progress, something that should be avoided, ignored, or silenced. But fear is not the enemy. It's not a wall. It's a signal. It's a flashing light in your nervous system trying to tell you something important is happening right now. Fear is your internal alert system designed not to paralyze you, but to prepare you. Think about it. Fear only shows up when something matters. You don't get scared about things that don't impact your life. You don't get anxious about things that have no value to you. Fear rises when there is a risk, yes, but also when there is a reward. It's not always warning you about danger. Sometimes it's pointing you toward opportunity. The fear you feel before speaking in public, before stepping into a new role, before saying yes to something bigger than you. That fear isn't weakness. It's a sign that you're moving into territory where growth happens. The problem isn't fear itself. The problem is how we respond to it. Most people run from fear because they assume it means stop. But fear doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means pay attention. Sometimes it means prepare, focus, step up. When we confuse the signal, we rob ourselves of power. But once you realize that fear is a tool, once you learn to read it and respond to it, you stop running. You start growing. Fear actually sharpens the mind. It heightens awareness. It brings clarity. It tells you this is not a moment to sleepwalk. This is a moment to be fully awake. And that alertness, that electricity moving through your body is energy. You can either let it flood your system with panic, or you can train yourself to harness it like fuel. Every great achiever you know, every person who made a mark on history had to face fear. Not once, but again and again. And their secret wasn't that they eliminated fear. It was that they learned to listen to it, learn from it, and then move through it. They treated fear like a compass, not a cage. So the next time fear speaks to you, don't ask, how do I shut this off? Ask, what is this trying to tell me? Because when you stop seeing fear as the enemy, you start seeing yourself more clearly. You start seeing what matters. You start seeing your next level. Fear is not there to stop you. It's there to wake you up to your potential. Learn to listen, and it will guide you straight to your power. Anxiety is one of the most misunderstood forms of energy in the human experience. Most people see it as a weakness, a flaw, a personal defect. But the truth is, anxiety is not brokenness. It's raw power with no direction. It's energy that hasn't been given a job yet. It's like electricity flowing with no wire, no outlet, no purpose. That's why it feels overwhelming. But once you understand that anxiety is simply intensity without structure, you begin to see it not as a curse, but as a resource you can redirect. That racing heart, that shallow breath, that restlessness, it's your system firing up. You're not shutting down, you're powering on. Your mind is awake, your body is alert, your instincts are ready. But when that energy has no focus, it turns inward and creates a storm. That's what we call anxiety, energy with nowhere to go. But what if you could take that same energy and point it at something? What if instead of letting it spiral into fear, you could channel it into action, preparation, and power? You see, the mind doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. Physiologically, they're nearly identical. The difference is the story you attach to the feeling. One story says, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not ready, I can't handle this. The other story says, I'm alive, I'm alert, I'm about to grow. And that story decides what happens next. You can train yourself to use anxiety as fuel. When you feel it rising, instead of panicking, get curious. Ask yourself, what is this energy asking me to do? What am I afraid to face? What am I avoiding that I need to step into? Anxiety often shows up when you're on the edge of expansion, when you're about to do something new, uncomfortable, or meaningful. That's not a signal to run, that's a sign to rise. The key is redirection. Take that restless energy and move it into planning, into writing, into training, into praying, into building. Don't sit in it. Don't let it swirl. Give it an outlet. Give it a target. The most productive, creative, and high-performing people on the planet have felt the same anxiety you feel. But instead of letting it destroy them, they channeled it into focus. They let it sharpen their edge. They used it to stay ready, to work harder, to prepare deeper. And that's why they broke through. You are not powerless in the face of anxiety. You are powerful beyond belief. You just haven't been taught how to use the power yet. Once you learn to redirect that energy, you'll realize anxiety was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to activate you. Most people view fear as a stop sign. They feel fear and immediately think, this must be wrong. I should avoid this. I'm not ready. But fear doesn't always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something is right. Fear often shows up not to push you away, but to point you in the right direction. It's not a warning to retreat. It's a compass showing you where your greatest potential lives. What if you've been misreading fear your entire life? What if the very thing you're afraid to do is the very thing you're called to do? You fear speaking because your voice has power. You fear leading because you're meant to influence others. You fear starting because you're wired for building. The truth is, fear rarely shows up around meaningless things. It usually shows up at the doorway of your next level. Every time you feel that nervous tension, the hesitation before stepping on stage, the tightness before making a tough decision, the doubt before launching something new, that's not a stop sign. That's a signal. It's pointing you directly at where you need to go next. Fear doesn't visit dead dreams. It shows up when something inside you is still alive and waiting to grow. And when you learn to recognize that pattern, you begin to live differently. Think about a compass. A compass doesn't scream. It doesn't shake. It simply points. In the same way, fear quietly nudges you. It says, pay attention. Look over here. This matters. That uncomfortable conversation you've been avoiding, that's your growth point. That risk you keep hesitating to take, that's your launch pad. Fear points to the places we need to stretch, heal, speak up, and step forward. The people who live full, fearless lives aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who reframe fear. They use it as guidance. They see fear and think, this might be exactly where I need to go. They don't let fear shut them down. They let it light the path. Every breakthrough lives on the other side of fear. But you'll never get there if you keep seeing fear as a reason to run. You've got to start seeing it as a reason to move, a reason to lean in. Because when you follow your fear, not blindly but boldly, you'll often find the very thing you've been searching for. Confidence, purpose, impact, and freedom. Fear is not your enemy. It's your inner compass, and it's pointing toward the version of you that's waiting to be born. Stop running from it. Start listening. Start walking in the direction it's trying to show you. That's where your power is. Courage is one of the most misunderstood qualities in the world. People think that courage means not being afraid, that the boldest people are somehow immune to fear. But that's not true. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of fear. It's not about feeling fearless. It's about moving forward even when your hands are shaking and your heart is pounding. Real strength isn't about being unafraid. It's about not letting fear make your decisions for you. The truth is, if you wait for fear to disappear before you take action, you'll be waiting forever. Fear never fully goes away. It simply becomes background noise once you stop giving it the microphone. Every great person you admire, the leaders, the creators, the innovators, they all felt fear, but they chose to act anyway. They didn't let the emotion dictate the outcome. They felt it, faced it, and then did what needed to be done. When you act while afraid, you gain something that people who always play it safe will never experience: growth. When you move through fear, you expand your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You start to believe, if I did that scared, what else am I capable of? Each time you take action in fear, your confidence grows, not because the fear went away, but because you prove to yourself that you can move anyway. Fear is just a feeling. It's real, yes, but it's not always reliable. If you follow fear blindly, it will shrink your life. It will convince you that comfort is more valuable than growth, that safety matters more than impact, but deep down you know that's not what you were made for. You weren't designed to tiptoe through life trying to avoid every uncomfortable feeling. You were designed to rise, to stretch, to push past the limits that fear tries to set around you. There will always be a reason to hesitate. There will always be an excuse to wait for the perfect time, for the fear to fade, for the conditions to be just right. But that perfect moment rarely comes. And when you realize that, you understand the secret. The most powerful thing you can do in a fearful moment is simply to take the next step. Not a giant leap, not a flawless move, just a step. Action is what separates the dreamers from the doers. And action, even small, scared action, breaks fear's grip every time. So yes, feel the fear, acknowledge it, respect it, but don't obey it. Act anyway, speak anyway, try anyway. That's how you take your power back. That's how you build a life not controlled by fear, but fueled by courage. Your future doesn't need you to be fearless. It just needs you to move. Fear doesn't begin in the world around you. It begins in your mind. What you say to yourself in moments of uncertainty determines how powerful or powerless you feel. Fear is not just an emotional response, it's a mental one. It feeds off the stories you tell yourself. If you tell yourself you're not capable, fear gets stronger. If you repeat thoughts of failure, fear multiplies. But if you shift the narrative, if you begin to think with clarity, courage, and truth, fear starts to lose its grip. Your thoughts are like oxygen to fear. The more negative, doubtful, or anxious thoughts you entertain, the more your fear grows. But the moment you challenge those thoughts, the moment you take back control of your internal dialogue, fear begins to starve. It weakens. It loses power. Fear cannot survive without the cooperation of your mind. You either feed it or you fight it. With the words you think and speak every single day, the battlefield isn't always outside of you. Most of the time, the real battle happens in your head. It's not the challenge itself that overwhelms you, it's what you think about the challenge. It's not the opportunity that scares you, it's the voice in your head that says you're not ready, that you'll fail, that you'll be judged. But understand this, those thoughts are not facts. They're not truth, they're habits, mental patterns that you've repeated for so long you've begun to believe them. And you have the power to break that cycle. When you begin to take control of your thoughts, you start to take control of your fear. You can't always stop fear from showing up, but you can stop entertaining the lies it tries to tell you. Start questioning the fear. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this true or is this just a reaction? Replace what if I fail with what if I fly? That small shift in language can redirect the entire course of your day and eventually your life. Your mind is the control center. It decides what grows and what dies. If you want fear to lose its power, stop watering it with negative thoughts. Feed your mind with truth, with possibility, with faith. Speak life over your goals, even when you're scared. Declare your readiness, even when you feel unsure. When your inner dialogue changes, your external reality will follow. Remember, your fear is listening to the words you think. Starve it of doubt, and it will fade. Feed your mind with strength, and fear won't stand a chance. Master your thoughts, and you master your future. Panic thrives in chaos. When your life is unstructured, when your days are unmanaged, when your thoughts are undisciplined, fear finds the perfect environment to grow. Anxiety multiplies in the presence of disorder. That's why discipline isn't just about routines and rules, it's a form of self-protection. It's a weapon against emotional instability. Discipline doesn't just shape your habits, it anchors your mind. When everything feels uncertain, your brain looks for patterns, for predictability, for structure. If it doesn't find any, it spins. That spinning is what we experience as anxiety. Your thoughts race, your breathing shortens, and your mind panics because it doesn't know what to expect next. But when you live a disciplined life, when you build structure into your day, clarity into your goals, and consistency into your actions, you reduce the unknown. You create a sense of control. And when your mind feels in control, fear begins to shrink. Discipline is what separates reaction from response. When you're disciplined, you don't react emotionally to every challenge, you respond intentionally. You don't let fear make your decisions. You let values, preparation, and focus lead the way. Discipline trains your mind to stay steady when everything around you is shaking. And in today's fast, distracted world, that steadiness is a rare and priceless strength. Too many people think discipline is about restriction. But in truth, discipline is freedom. It's freedom from regret, freedom from emotional chaos, freedom from living at the mercy of circumstances. A disciplined person doesn't need to feel motivated every day. They've built systems that carry them even when emotions don't. They don't fall apart every time fear whispers because they have anchors, habits, rituals, responsibilities that keep them grounded. The strongest minds are not the ones that avoid fear. They're the ones that are trained for it. Discipline is training. It's mental conditioning. Just like an athlete doesn't step onto the field without preparation, you can't expect to face fear with strength if you haven't trained your mind for those moments. And that training doesn't happen in dramatic bursts. It happens daily, in the quiet, ordinary moments where you choose consistency over comfort, order over laziness, purpose over distraction. When you wake up at the same time every day, when you follow through on your goals, when you manage your time instead of wasting it, you are building a fortress in your mind. And fear has a much harder time entering a mind that's fortified by discipline. That's why the most successful people don't just have big dreams, they have tight routines. They don't just talk about progress, they live it in their habits. Panic often comes when you feel powerless. Discipline gives you that power back. It reminds you that even when you can't control the outcome, you can control your preparation. Even when you can't control the world, you can control your response to it. And that internal control, built through daily discipline, is what keeps fear from running your life. So if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed, if you're done with living in panic mode, don't just wait for confidence to show up. Build it through structure. Create stability through habits. Don't underestimate the power of small daily disciplines. They create the calm you've been chasing. Discipline isn't just about being organized. It's about being unshakable. It's not just about getting things done. It's about becoming someone who can stand firm when fear shows up. Because when your life is grounded in discipline, panic has no place to grow. Fear grows in the shadows. The more you avoid it, the bigger and louder it becomes. The more you run from it, the more control it gains over your life. That's the strange thing about fear. It feeds on distance. When you keep fear at arm's length, it multiplies in your imagination. But when you face it head on, when you walk straight into it, something powerful happens. It begins to shrink. Most of the fear we experience isn't rooted in reality, it's rooted in avoidance. We don't fear the thing itself, we fear the unknown, the what-ifs, the possibility of failure, judgment, pain, or discomfort. But fear is a liar when left unchallenged. It will convince you that the conversation will destroy your relationship, that the risk will end in disaster, that the dream is too big for you, that failure is inevitable. But how many times have you finally done something you were scared of, only to realize it wasn't nearly as bad as your mind made it seem? That's because fear exaggerates in the dark. It projects false images. It distorts the truth. But when you turn and face it, when you walk into it with your eyes open, you expose fear for what it really is. Just emotion, not fact. Just a barrier made of thought, not stone. Avoidance gives fear its power. Every time you delay the difficult conversation, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it. Every time you postpone the decision, you tell your brain that fear is stronger than you. Every time you stay silent instead of speaking up, fear grows a little more. But when you do the thing, even with trembling hands, even with a pounding heart, you begin to teach your mind something new, that you're stronger than the fear, that action is more powerful than anxiety. Fear is like a bully in your mind. It seems intimidating until you stand up to it. And the moment you do, you realize it doesn't have the strength it claimed. Courage doesn't come before the action, it comes after. The feeling of strength is the reward of movement, not the prerequisite for it. You face fear not because you feel ready, but because you are tired of being controlled. And here's the truth, the longer you run, the longer you stay stuck. But when you face it, even once, even in a small way, the grip of fear begins to loosen. It loses its authority over your life. Every step you take toward the fear, the smaller it becomes. And over time, what once felt terrifying becomes normal, even empowering. Growth demands confrontation. You cannot evolve by avoiding the things that make you uncomfortable. You cannot reach your potential while hiding from the very challenges that are designed to shape you. Fear will always exist. It's part of the human experience. But how you respond to it defines the size of your life. A small life avoids. The moment you stop running is the moment fear starts shrinking. Stand in front of it, speak in spite of it, move through it, and you'll discover that what once felt like a wall was just a door. And that your freedom was waiting on the other side all along. Everyone has a fear story. A moment they backed down, a time they ran from what mattered, a season when fear dictated every decision. Maybe you've lived with that story for years. Maybe it's shaped how you see yourself, hesitant, small, doubtful. But here's the truth. Your fear story does not have to be your final story. You have the power to rewrite it. You can take the same fear that once paralyzed you and turn it into fuel. You can transform your fear story. It begins by reclaiming your voice. Fear thrives in silence and shame. It tells you that you're the only one struggling, the only one scared, the only one doubting yourself. But fear loses its strength the moment you shine light on it. When you speak your story, when you stop hiding from your past, when you admit that fear held you back, but that it won't anymore, you start to shift the narrative. You take the pen back from fear and begin to write a new ending. Your fear story isn't something to be ashamed of. It's the foundation for your power. Every moment you were afraid and didn't quit, every time you doubted yourself but still showed up, every time you cried, fell, broke, but got up anyway, that's strength. That's character. That's resilience. And that's what your power story is made of. Not perfection, but perseverance. Not fearlessness, but movement in the face of fear. You must decide that your fear will no longer be the villain in your life story. It will become the turning point. The moment you stopped running, the moment you said enough, the moment you turned inward and found a strength you didn't know you had. That's the beauty of rewriting your story. It doesn't erase what happened, but it redefines what it meant. The fear that once defined you now refines you. It becomes your fire, not your chain. When you tell your story from a place of power, you don't just heal. You help others heal. You become living proof that fear doesn't have the final say. You become a mirror for someone else, a guide for someone still stuck where you used to be. That's why your fear story matters, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And because it has the potential to become someone else's survival manual. Don't let fear write your legacy. You've got more inside you than what fear wants you to believe. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to become in response to it. The story you tell yourself every day is shaping the life you live. So stop repeating the narrative of fear, failure, and doubt. Start telling the story of power, growth, and courage. This is your moment, not to erase the past, but to reframe it. To look back and say, yes, I was afraid, but I moved anyway. Yes, I fell, but I got up stronger. Yes, fear was loud, but my purpose was louder. That's how you turn fear into power. Not by pretending it didn't happen, but by owning it, transforming it, and using it to rise. Rewrite the narrative. Your past fears don't define you, your response to them does. Every time you choose growth over fear, you rewrite your future.